Hi guys, and welcome to Console's winter release webinar. I'm Matt McGowan. I'm the head of product and marketing for Reapit ANZ. And with me I have TJ, who's the Console Cloud head of product.
Good morning, everyone.
Guys, look, we've got a really big audience online today. So the first thing I'm gonna do is just dive into a bit of housekeeping. For those who've been on the previous 15 webinars over the last 4 years, you know the drill. For our newbies, down the bottom right-hand corner is a Q&A button. We'll be taking questions throughout the webinar, so they'll be answered online by one of our product team who are just sitting across from me. So feel free to answer your questions. We've got a couple of beta programs running, so we'll be calling out for some beta users. The various product owners running those beta programs will capture your details and reach out after the webinar. We'll stay online for probably 10 minutes after the hour, and hopefully if there's any questions that we missed, we can tidy them all up before we close off, and TJ and I will take a couple of live questions to round out the webinar. So it's the usual format. We're going to talk about last time we were here, what we promised to deliver this quarter, review what we actually delivered. So we had a couple of minor misses that we'll just call out and give you an update on where they are. We're going to demo some of the really exciting features that we've built over the last quarter, as well as give you a sneak peek on what we're currently building this quarter. Just going to get this out of the way. So the roadmap to the end of financial year. So when we were here back in February, we were talking about what we'll be delivering before the end of financial year. And basically we broke the roadmap into a few different sections. Quality of life improvements are really those areas that we get a lot of feedback from our existing customer base. And that informs a lot of our decisions, and it helps us prioritize things that our customers want. In that quality of life improvements, the single highest priority was our single end of financial year statements for multiple properties. We'd had a lot of feedback on that on previous years. Obviously, we're on the clock because that is something that just had to be delivered before the end of financial year. It's been really successfully received. Tito's just going to give a bit of a recap on that later on. And just show the statements and just talk about where we're going to take some of our statement work in the future. Two things I do want to call out that we didn't quite complete in the quarter was the ability to edit the owner statement email templates. So it's a piece of work that's been ongoing. It's not very far away. It's currently in final stages of development testing, and we hope to release that later this month. So that's August. And the ability to add attachments and tags to notes. So just extending a couple of features that we already have in cloud to our notes capability, hoping to have that out in early September. So outside of the quality of life improvements, I'm going to be demoing custom data fields today. So that's a really exciting feature, especially for a lot of our gateway clients who move to cloud, looking at how that's working and just giving you some indications on where we're taking that in the future. Console Go app, we recently won a design award for this app. So, thank you for your support and direction over the build of our Go Inspect app. We're not going to demo it today, but we've been making several improvements just to better manage our contacts within that app. The vision for that app is to be able to, basically run your property management business from your iPhone or Android phone. So we're continuing to invest in that platform. Again, we won't demo it today, but if you haven't used the app or you want to get your hands on it, please contact our sales team. Big focus for us, workflows and growth tools. So we're going to look at our Invoice Arrears workflow, our bills workflow, which we've been receiving a lot of feedback on, and talk about where that's going, and Yardstick, which is our NPS tracking tool, and a couple of the improvements that we've made over the last couple of quarters with that tool. And I'm going to share a bit of data with you just so you can appreciate the power of that tool and how it can help you grow your business and better understand your owners. And user experience. For those who are already on Console Cloud, you will have noticed a couple of little prompts, a couple of little changes coming through the interface. Tito's going to run through those changes and the direction that we're heading with some of those usability improvements. Look, our goals this quarter were really simple. We wanted to address some of the high priority customer feedback items. We wanted to help you grow your business and become more efficient. And the third thing that is actually not up here that is a bit of a bonus that we're really excited to demo are the improvements that we're making to our insights, our reporting dashboard. So TJ's going to give you a sneak peek of that, and that'll be towards the end of the webinar. So really exciting to demo that one. Okay, firstly, I'm just going to quickly talk about Yardstick, just some of the interesting data points coming out of this this tool within Console Cloud. So Yardstick is our Net Promoter Score tool. So it helps you to understand your owner sentiment towards your property management business. And look, basically, it's a simple question. If you're a Console Cloud customer, we already ask you this question: how likely are you to refer our service to your friends or colleagues? And Yardstick runs on a very similar premise. So basically, your customers give you an answer, 0 to 10, on how likely they are to refer you. And there's the opportunity to add a little bit of commentary on why they gave you that score. So just a couple of interesting stats coming out of the data. About 15% of the owners that we've seen over the last 6,000 responses fell into this category. And there was really two very strong, distinct reasons why owners were giving our customers a score between 0 and 6. The first one was communications, promptness of communications, and clarity of communications. And the second one, again, this one's a bit hard to manage in today's environment, especially we've had a lot of turnover in our industry, but it was a theme that we picked up in the data, and it was that the owner felt that they didn't know who their property manager was. So a couple of interesting data points, a couple of interesting themes coming out of that information. And really, Yardstick is your opportunity to identify those people who are detractors and reach out to them to get a little bit more information, potentially talk to them before they become a loss management. If anyone gives a score of 7 or 8, they're our neutrals. So they're mostly positive, but they don't actually contribute to the Net Promoter Score. And the 9s and 10s are your promoters. And 65% of owners fell into this category. And it's kind of the inverse reasons for why people were detractors. Why did they give responses of 9 and 10? Great communication was the #1 theme that we picked out. Prompt responses, so timeliness of response was another very strong theme coming out of that information. Proactive management of the property, so actually reaching out to the owner and having those conversations about things we can do to better manage the property. And great follow through, so specifically around maintenance and compliance. So if an owner had a question around maintenance, a maintenance job, or a compliance item, this was one of the really strong themes that came through on that data. Very high correlation between our customers, deeply and actively using our workflows and these responses. So just some interesting insight. Just wanted to share that with you guys. I'm going to demo it very briefly and quickly today, but we continue to invest in Yardstick. We see it as a key tool for your growth. If you understand who your promoters are and your detractors are, you can actually act before you lose a management, or if they're a promoter, you can actually actively ask for a testimonial or referral. You'll see from the demo, obviously, what's next, and TJ can probably touch on this when we demo insights, but we actually need to build the ongoing reporting of your NPS, so you can see over time the changes into insights. Bills, one of our largest feedback items. It's a multi-quarter project for us. We're going to show you today some of the really great steps forward we've taken with bills management. And it's a really powerful tool already. And TJ is going to give you a sneak peek at some of the improvements that we have coming up this quarter. So, really exciting part of the project of the product. And I think some of the changes we're making are really going to benefit you guys as our customers. Invoice Arrears, we had a really successful release a few years ago of our rental arrears management program, and we actually noticed a real reduction in the total days in arrears when we released that product. So the next thing, obviously, we started getting feedback was, why can't you do this with Invoice Arrears? We're going to demo that today, show you what it looks like. We've released that product. It's in market for our premium clients. And we've automated that process so that you don't have to manually chase up those tenant invoices anymore. Analytics. This will be the last thing we kind of run through today. TJ's really excited. We've totally redesigned the dashboards. We've made them faster, more intuitive. We're going to give you some really great insight into your business. TJ's going to show you some of the forecasting tools available in the insights, as well as some of the advanced drill down platforms. And look, the way that this has been rebuilt, whether you're, a customer with, less than 100 properties, or you're a customer with a couple of thousand properties, this tool, this Insights Analytics, is going to help your business. So stay to the end, guys. We're really excited to show off where this is heading. And And I guess with that, we'll get straight into it. I'm going to start with custom data. So custom data is just a really great way to capture any additional information around a contact or property that Console Cloud currently doesn't capture. So, the power's in your hands. You've got total flexibility. It starts down here with the settings. You'll see they've got the custom categories, which is your labels, and custom data is a little bit deeper because it lets you specify the data types you want to capture against a contact, property, or sale. You can see that I've already added some sections. So personal details is a section, and I've added some field types. Now, some of these field types are already in cloud, but this is just for demo purposes. And you've got the ability to add multiple sections. So, I've got another section here with some fields, and I just made this one for this webinar today. I added a section called webinar, and I've got one field, which is a drop-down menu. So, you can continue to go and add more fields, and you can see all the data types you can choose here. You can have long text, short text, currency, number, date, a yes, no question, or a selection, which is, really a drop-down menu. I'm going to move this out of the way. And look, we'll just put one in. I'll just put another one in. Oops. I was going to make that a yes, no question. Oh,
too long.
Too long. I'll shorten that. Have I got it shorter? No. There we go. And you can see you can keep adding, data types to each of these sections, and you can add as many sections as you like. And again, you can have different sections and different data fields captured at a property level, and different data and sections on a sales input if you're using our Sales Trust product. So let's go and look at what that looks like on a contact. I'm going to go to an owner. Oops, sorry, go back. Just use this view because I had an owner that I wanted to talk to. If I go to Abby's profile, I can see that there's this new tab, custom data. I can open it up. I can see all the fields that I can go and add additional information. And just by clicking on one of these, it'll bring out the drawer, and I can go and add this information through the system. Now, obviously, date of birth is something that you can already capture against a contact. But again, just to show you how it works, number of dependents, I can put some information in there. I can fill all these things in. This is what the selection process looks like. So, if you're running a workflow outside of the Console Cloud workflows, you can kind of step people through these sections. I've actually got one for an owner that I did, yeah. So just for an owner, for example, here's the option that I added before. But say you've got an owner and you've got a system that you want to basically reach out to the owner proactively at 30 days, at 60 days, after 120 days, you can actually just move people through these stages and save that on the record. Now, this program, we're currently in beta with our custom data. We've got Brooke online, so please ping her if you would like to be added to the beta program. And there's a couple of obvious extensions that we're going to make. We're in the future also going to add the custom data to agreements, and make it exportable through the property list. And for our enterprise clients, you already will have access to that through our API. So be able to pull custom information out through our API, which is really, really useful. Going to hand over to TJ.
Great, thanks, Matt. I'm just going to do a quick little bit of setup over here. Okay, all right. So the next thing we're going to take a look at is how we've simplified navigation in Console Cloud. So we're always looking to improve the usability of the product. And one of the ways in doing that is bringing all the important information that you need on properties, owners, and tenants in one spot, which is what we're going to look at in terms of our new property list pages. So we gave you a demo of this in the last webinar. We've since made some changes. The first thing you'll notice right at the top there of the property list page is we've got our workflows in here now. So which means you can now access your workflows very quickly while you're looking at your property list pages. We still have the workflow nav bar here on the left, but eventually we will transition over to this view here where you have access to all your workflows in the property list pages. And in case you logged into cloud today, you'll also notice that we've done the same for commercial as well. So if you go into commercial, you'll see the commercial workflows are up there as well. So I'm just going to switch back to Resi and give you an overview of some of the other enhancements that we made. Just coming back to workflows for a bit, you can see that I can see all these workflows over there. You can scroll over to the left, to the right, sorry, to get access to the remaining workflows. You can also change the order. And the good thing with this is you can bring the most important workflows to you right to the top, for example. So you can see that always on the top. And it remembers this setting for your profile. So you don't have to do this every single time you log in. It persists. So you can see now lease renewals is brought forward. I'm looking at just my portfolio. So I can see the stats there relate to my portfolio. So if I go into lease renewals, for example, that'll take me to my lease renewals page with just my portfolio. Some of the other enhancements that we've added is just improving the search and filtering options. So we've got keyword searches. I think we showed this last time, but just to sort of recap, if you are looking to, for instance, group properties into regions or by street address, you can just type in the street address, for example.
Or building, TJ, for our residential unit managers.
That's right. You can just type in just a portion of that address and it sort of does a close match there. We've also got filters over here that allows you to narrow this list even further. So for instance, you can do it by tenant expiry, by vacate dates, and also by keys checked in, checked out. We also got categories in here as well. So previously we've shown you categories, so you can create as many categories as you like, assign them to a property, and then quickly filter this list based on your category, which is pretty good. And you can see all the properties that have just that one category selected. The other improvement that we made is bulk actions. So if you wanted to send, for instance, a bulk message to all your tenants and owners in these properties, you'd have to go to the relevant tenant and property list pages and do it there. You can now do it in this page. So you can see we've got checkboxes right next to the property names there. You can just select the ones that you want to send a message to. So let's just go back to the example where I need to send a message to all the tenants on a particular street. I can just type in the street address and you can see all the properties there on Gibson Crescent. Select all of them and click on message. And you get the option to send the same message to the tenants of all 5 properties or even the owners. So if you want to send a quick bulk message to all these tenants about something important down their street, you can do that very quickly now.
Yeah, that's great, TJ. I think one of the examples one of our residential unit managers gave us was, to pick a building and let them know that, guest car parks were going to be out of action for 48 hours. So they could just search for the building, use the text message, send that out to make sure all of their tenants were aware that there will be no guest parking for the next 48 hours.
Exactly. So it's real easy now. And you can also quickly export that data to CSV if you need to take printouts, for example.
Checking out my keys.
Checking my keys. Yep. You can also see that. Actually, before we do that, I want to show you some of the other little things that you probably haven't noticed when looking at the screen before. So we've got tooltips now. So for instance, if you just hold the mouse over some of these fields, you'll see a bit more information. For example, I can see the property reference right there, and I can also see who the managing agent is for the property. When it comes to the rent amounts, we've also added those tooltips so you can see the effective pay to date. So if I go down to this one, for instance, you can see the effective pay to date, given that there's $100 in credit, is the 29th of September in that case, which is just a little nicety. So you don't have to go into the tenant and look it up that way. When it comes to keys, we've got key management embedded into the screen as well. So you can quickly check in and check out keys. For instance,
I could filter my keys.
You got a filter? Yeah. Yes, you can filter all your keys by all your properties that have been checked out, for instance. So these are all my properties that I currently have keys checked out. And once they're returned, I can come back here and go check in and then quickly check in that key.
Or I could quickly just send a reminder to everybody who's got keys checked out.
That's right, all from this list. So as you can see, we're trying to put everything that you do, the most common features of functions that you would do in cloud in one place. And we know that most of you like to start at the property page and then sort of work your way to the owners and tenants. And you can do that now in this one place.
And just add in some more flexibility. So you've got control over the look and feel, and you can prioritize those workflows up the top just to make sure that, it works in line with how you work as a user.
That's right. So that's the changes that we want to talk about when it comes to the property list pages. So we'll go to the next part of the demo, which is the bills workflow. So Matt touched on this in terms of what we were working on for the past couple of months. So I'll show you and just recap where we're up to and what we're working on over the next quarter.
So bills are a really important part of our system. We link a lot of elements, bills, owner fees, maintenance. So yeah, we're really excited to demo some of the capability that we've been releasing over the last quarter that mightn't have been obvious to you. And TJ's got a prototype of what we're working on this quarter. And, I think it's like a massive step forward for our customers. So we appreciate the feedback, guys.
Yeah, that's it. We've had bills now for, I think, a few months in the product, and we have received tons of feedback around how we can improve it even further. So you'll see some of those improvements today and some of the improvements being worked on as well. So we'll start with just a recap of where we're at. So this is the bills workflow screen. So you can see, for example, all my new bills. We've got quick filters in the top there that allow me to see all my overdue bills that have not been on charge to my tenants yet, and bills where I've recouped the costs from the tenant. So you've got filters there to quickly show you the statuses of those bills. And you can also see all paid bills over here as well. Now, moving down the list, we're going to go ahead and add a new bill. And this is where you'll see some of the improvements that we've made. So let's take a scenario where you've got an open maintenance job, for instance, and the bill has gone directly to the accounts department, and the person that does all your bills management has received the bill for the invoice for the job, but is probably not aware that the maintenance request is still open. So we can now link these bills to open maintenance requests, provided that there's a work order already issued for that creditor. So let's go ahead and show you that example. So I'm going to add a bill that we've got here in the system. So here's an example of a very simple bill for auto property maintenance, and it's for that property. So I'm going to now enter the bill as per usual, look up the creditor's details. And you'll notice that there's a new option here called attach to an open maintenance request. So if this property has a maintenance request that's already open, you get this option. So I'm going to tick that, and then you can see the open maintenance requests that are currently there. So I've got 2 of them currently there, and you can choose which one this applies to. So let's say, for example, this was relating to the broken fan job. You can select that one. If you want to view the job, you can just right click on that, open a new tab, so you don't lose your spot in the bill. And you can just verify that this is the job that bill relates to. If it looks good, you can go back and continue to process the bill. So we're going to go ahead and just complete this bill. And put in the details, and the amount there is, let's say this one's $200, inclusive of GST. The other improvements that we've made is if there's any fees that have been set up on the owner's management agreement, they will appear here. So we've got a few new options when it comes to charging commissions. One of them is on every single bill payment. And if you've got that fee set up on the owner's management agreement, that you'll see that option here. So you have the option to actually charge this fee or not.
So it only comes through, TJ, if it's on the management agreement. That's
right. And it ensures that you don't forget to charge your fees, especially when you're entitled to. So let's say in this case, the owner has agreed to pay this bill payment fee. I can tick that box. Now, this is something that's not new, but it's the ability to on-charge this bill to the tenant. So we've shown this previously, but I'll show you some of the improvements that we've made. So let's say in this case, the tenant is liable to a portion of this bill. So we can on-charge this bill to the tenant, which will then allow me to create the tenant invoice without leaving this page. So I'm going to go ahead and add the bill so that Console Cloud can now track this bill for payment. Okay, so the bill has been created and is now being tracked by the bill's workflow. And when funds are available, then I can pay it off using the owner's funds. But I'm still in the screen, and this is where I can now create the tenant invoice. So you can see the tenant is currently selected. You have the option to choose the current tenant or even a past tenant. And this is a new feature. So we've added this ability recently. So it got released a week ago now. And if the tenant has any funds held in trust against deposit, you will see that right there, which is great. So you don't forget to transfer funds from deposit to pay off invoices for tenants. So if there's sufficient funds, you can then use those funds or put them towards paying this invoice. So in this case, we're going to use the $100 in deposit to pay this invoice or cover this invoice. We've got the line items there. I'm going to choose the appropriate dissection for this one, which is what appears on the tenant invoice or the owner statement rather. Let's go general repairs maintenance. And let's say the tenant is owes $200 of this invoice. You can also include the attachment. So while it creates the tenant invoice, it'll also attach this creditor bill to the tenant invoice. Now, because this tenant has direct debit set up using Console Pay, I have the option to schedule the balance of their payment using direct debit, which is just closing the loop on the whole process.
Yep. And you've also got a little prompt that just popped up there about the tenant's preference to use Console Pay for invoices.
That's right. And then finally, you can see down here in the bottom, the system is applying $100 there to deposit, and the balance of $100 is what the tenant actually owes, and that's what the tenant will see on the tenant invoice. So I can then create and send, which will then email the invoice to the tenant along with a copy of this with the balance owing for $100. So it's really easy and takes the pain away from having to now create tenant invoices after you've added the bill.
Yeah, and look, a lot of this feedback's come back from our power users and our clients. So I've been working with our customers for the past 6 months to keep continually, closing those loops. Like TJ mentioned, there's no point creating a tenant invoice and then having to prompt the tenant to go and pay with direct debit if they're already agreed to pay by direct debit. So bringing it all into a single flow is what we've been trying to do, and I think the feedback that we've initially received has been really, really positive.
Yep, that's exactly right. So I'm going to show you the next part, which is paying the bill. So let's say in this case, we've got, we can see the available funds there, and this is across all the properties that this owner has. So these are combined funds. So that's the bill we've just created. So I'm going to open that now. And the system will actually tell you that if there's insufficient funds in this property to pay that bill. So currently, there aren't enough funds to pay this bill. So I'm going to show you something that's not released to everyone yet. It's still in the final stages of development, but I'm able to show you today because I've got early release access to this office, and which is the ability to transfer funds from other properties that this owner has. So within the same ownership, if they have multiple properties, you can transfer funds and choose where the money comes from and from which property. Previously, Console Cloud will do the automatic journaling of those funds, which I know a lot of you prefer, but we also know that some of you would like the flexibility of choosing where to transfer those funds from. So with this one here, there's insufficient funds to pay this bill from that property, but this transfer button is now available. So if I click on transfer, I will be able to see all the other properties and ledgers where there's funds that I can pull from. So you can see there's these two properties that have sufficient funds, and the rest are all zero. So what I can do is I can take, say, 150 from here, or I can take 46 from there and the balance from there, and it sort of splits the difference. So you can do it that way, or you can take all the full amount from one of these properties. Console Cloud will then automatically journal the monies from each of these ledgers, and they'll be reflected on the statements very clearly as to where the money was transferred from and for what purpose. So we've made this whole process entirely seamless now.
And more transparent.
And more transparent as well.
So you can take care of your bills however you choose. So those who continue want to use the auto journaling in the background, you can do that. If you want to manually control which properties those funds are coming from, you can also do it that way.
That's correct. So moving down to this pay section, you can see that we're paying that creditor, and we've got the maintenance request linked to it as well. So if there's sufficient funds, we can hit process. And then once I process the bill, I'll have the option to close the maintenance request here as well, just closing the loop on that maintenance job. So the bill is now paid, the job is closed, and everything's done. So it's real easy. All right, so I'm going to show you now what we're working on and what's coming up this quarter. So I'm going to switch to a prototype that shows you some of the things, cool new features that we're adding to bills.
This is the sneak peek.
This is a sneak peek. So what you're
jumping the gun and giving the sneak peek now.
That's right. So not developed yet, but it's something that we're working on. So to start with, actually, I didn't show you this, but we do have the ability. I'll actually just go back into Cloud for a second. We do have the ability to bulk process your bills as well. So for instance, if you've got all sufficient funds on all your owners to pay bills, you can select all of them and hit process bills. And as long as there's enough funds, the system will automatically just pay them.
Yep. So pay from trust and create the relevant BPay and EFT files.
That's right.
ABA files, that's appropriate.
Yep, correct. However, with the enhancements we're making to the bulk processing, you'll be able to see that once I select all my bills, I have the ability to then process them in bulk. And we're now adding this option to auto journal money automatically if there's insufficient funds. So this is a setting that you'll be able to turn on, and the system will automatically transfer funds from other properties the owners have to pay those bills where possible. And this is something that you can opt into. It's not, I know a lot of you probably don't prefer this and you prefer to just manually transfer funds, but this will be there as well for you to choose. And that's all configured in this new bill settings section. So we'll have a new option there called auto journal funds, which will allow you to, when bulk processing your bills, to transfer funds from common properties, which you can turn on and off. And then another new feature that we're looking to add to bills is the automatic withhold of funds, which you can then set at a global level. So each time you're processing a bill and there's insufficient funds, the system will create an automatic withhold on that owner's file for the full amount of that bill, and then remove it once the bill is paid. So you can have that setting turned on for all bills. And then you also have the option to turn it on and off per bill level as well. So to see what that looks like, when you're processing a bill, you'll get this new bill options section, which is where you can turn auto withholds on and off. If it's on, it'll tell you what's happening. So you can see here, the bill will be processed in 7 days from the due date. And that's it. It's as easy as that. So a lot of these things that we're doing here will dramatically reduce the amount of time it takes for you to manage your bills and just streamline the entire process. And of course, by having these auto withholds in there, it just removes that pain from having to manage it manually and remembering to go to the owner's file, adding a withhold, and then remembering to remove it afterwards.
Yeah, you don't have to set reminders for yourself. The system's taking care of it. But look, I think probably one of the key things to call out is, you have control over how you want to manage this process.
And that's the bills workflow that's currently in development. So looking forward to getting that out and into your hands. All right, we're going to jump back into cloud and take you through some of the other improvements we've made. So Matt talked about quality of life improvements. One of them was the changes to the end of financial year statements. So we'll start there. And this is something that we did just prior to the financial year, which is giving customers the ability to generate a consolidated financial year statement where owners have multiple properties. You can currently do that for your owner statements, and it's something that we've also added now to your financial year statements. So it's a setting that you can turn on by going into settings, banking, and if you scroll down to the statement section, you'll see there's this new option here called Consolidate EFY Statements. Once it's turned on, essentially what will happen is it'll combine multiple property statements into one single PDF, and it'll also use the new layout that we've applied to these statements. So we're going to take a look at an example there. Once it's turned on and you save the changes, when you generate your financial year statements as normal in accounts reports, I'm just going to show you a quick example, and let's select the current year. Normally you just go all your owners and then send the statements. But if you're looking to do a specific one, if that owner has multiple properties, they will only appear once in this list. So you can see This owner here has 15 properties and you only have to select them once and it generates a single statement. Now, I've already downloaded the statement previously, so I'm just going to open it up and show you what that looks like. And this is an example of that statement. So the first page here is a summary of all the income and expenses across all the properties. So it gives you that high-level summary at the top there, income, expenses, and net position. And then we've got the individual breakdown by dissection of all the income and expenses across the subsequent pages. And then after that, we've got the statement for every single property. So you can see 1 of 15 properties. So we've got them all in here. So it's just a really clean layout now for our statements. So you can see the summary there for the first property and so on and so forth. So we've got about 17 pages here in this PDF for the 15 properties. And then the last page, once again, just summarizes all the income and expenses.
And obviously, TJ, we had to get this out before end of financial year. What's the feedback been?
Look, the feedback has been very positive. We know a lot of you love it to the point now you're asking for the same treatment on owner statements. And that's something that when we have a look at what's coming up next in terms of our roadmap, you'll see that it's something that we're going to focus on as well. So to bring this sort of layout to the owner statements. And so this is available right now, so you can use it today. So we're going to take a look at the other quality of life improvement, which is to do with the commissions on certain invoices. So there's a lot of you that want to be able to have full flexibility when it comes to charging commissions. And so what we've done is added a couple more options now in agency fees. So we'll take a look. So the first one is you can now create a commission or a fee type on every invoice payment receipt. So the example there is if you're creating invoices to tenants and you agreed with your owners to charge a management fee or an admin fee for issuing those invoices, when you receive payments for those invoices from the tenant, you can charge a commission. So, and that's a setting that you can turn on. So a good example there is for water processing. If you would like to charge a fee for processing water invoices, we know a lot of you do that. You can now do that by setting up this fee. The other fee type that we also added is what I showed previously, which is on bill payment. So every time a bill is processed, you have the option to charge this fee. So we know a lot of you, have competing in a very tough market, can't probably just charge a flat fee for all your services, and you have to charge more activity-based fees. So you can see we've catered to the majority of the types of activities that you'd probably want to charge for.
I think, guys, a lot of this is driven by your feedback as well. So, it's our job to help support your business model. So as, those business models evolve, change, you enter new markets, you need to create different types of fees. We're trying to support those as quickly as we can through Console Cloud and give you really granular control. And when I would say granular, Tito's just about to demonstrate it, but really tight control on when those fees are charged.
That's it. And, just going back into this example here. So I'm going to create that fee to be charged on invoice payment receipt. And you'll see that you'll have the option to charge it for all dissections or only for a specific dissection. So for example, just going back to our water invoice example, if we're issuing tenant invoices for excess water and we'd like to charge a fee just for those types of invoices, you can create that right here. And the end result, if I go back a step, you can see I've created a fee for myself called water processing admin fee, which will be charged on every tenant invoice that has this dissection. Now, I already have an invoice prepared, so I'm going to go ahead and receipt money to pay that invoice. So we'll go into receipts and bring up the property where I have an outstanding invoice for a tenant for water usage. So you've got it right there. So you can see water usage. That's a dissection there. And I now have the prompt there to tell me that this invoice will incur that admin fee that I created, which in this case was 10%. So once I enter the amount, then $1 will be charged the owner for this admin fee, which is fully customizable, by the way. But
$10, TJ.
$10, that's right. And that's it. It's really easy. Once it's set up, it'll basically automatically charge this fee for you, as long as it's set up in the management agreement. All right, so the next thing we're going to take a look at is invoice arrears. So I'm going to pass back to Matt, and he can show you what we've done there.
Thanks, TJ. Yeah, look, invoice arrears was the #1 product feedback item for a couple of quarters. We really took our time just to think about how we were going to build that out. I might just access it from the property page. Look, our rental arrears workflow has been really, really successful. And we wanted to replicate that success on the invoice side of things. So for our premium clients, you have the ability to automate this process. The format's the same. So you can come down here, you can see the property. I can see that this tenancy has actually got rental arrears and invoice arrears, but the format's the same. So the timeline, it's a single timeline with all arrears event, whether that be rental or invoice arrears. I can message the client from here manually if I want to, and I'll be showing you the automation shortly. You can see the position, so the rental position, as well as the invoices that are outstanding. It's all consolidated, and from here you can add notes or you can create a form. So it's a really powerful workflow. Everything's in one spot. Everything's been written to the timeline for that property, which is really important. You can view the emails. If there are any forms created, you can go and view the form. I don't have one here. I'll just come up and show you the invoice arrears. So I've got automation on at the moment. And if I just open that up, you'll see I've got the option to edit my preferences for my rental arrears. And I've also now got this ability to edit my preferences for my invoice arrears. I have automation turned on for my arrears. I can see what the current schedule is, and I can edit those preferences. It's really important. Like, again, we wanted to give you control over when you can start and stop this process. And you'll see I've got two methods. So very similar to rental arrears, I can send a daily SMS reminder informing the tenant of the invoice arrears. I can see what the template is here. I can click view. I can go and edit that template in the templating engine within Console Cloud. And I guess just a bit of feedback from the data we see, that single daily SMS is the most effective method of collecting your outstanding rental arrears and invoice arrears. We appreciate some of our clients want to take a more softer approach and basically build an escalating arrears series. And again, we've given you that flexibility. So, a lot of this development is to help you be more efficient, help you be more effective, but also, every agency is different, and it's our job to help support the way that you want to work. So you can see I can add another trigger. I might want to send daily. I might want to send it 3 days. I can send an email. I can choose my template and continue to build out an escalating arrears series. Couple of I guess quality things that we've thought through. Time of day that you send this. If you don't want to probably be sending that in the morning because you want to give your trust accountant the time to receipt. So you might just want to make that 12 p.m. Nothing worse than sending an arrears reminder and they've paid, your tenant's paid, and it's just because you haven't receipted. So that's the invoice arrears. I will show you a couple of nice little additions you can filter. So I can click down here, you can see everything at the moment. In my portfolio or in TJ's portfolio. I can filter by days in arrears. So invoice arrears, 30 days and more. I can go into each of these. I can see actually they've got, I can pause the automation if I want to. I can just go in and send a message for my invoice arrears. I can come in here and actually send an email template and attach the outstanding invoice so that the tenant has that information. So again, it's an end-to-end solution. We're linking reminders, forms, notes, pay to date amounts. It's really powerful. We only will send these reminders out to active tenancies. And again, you have control over, basically when that arrears event communication starts and when it stops. So even though I'm talking about invoice arrears, it's a very similar pattern to rental arrears. And we saw the success of our customers had when they implemented the automated workflow on that particular side of things. Did I miss anything, TJ?
No, you covered everything. It's great.
Oh, and I guess, granular control, you can turn reminders on and off at a tenancy level. So, the power's in your hands. And it's our job just to inform you. That's what these little widgets up the top do. And then you can run the business the way that you want to run it. What's next?
The next thing is Yardstick, Matt.
Oh, yeah, great. Approached to demo this a little bit earlier. I'm just going to quickly go to dashboard. I'm going to show you how easy this is to, basically set up. And the feedback is invaluable to your business. So it's one of the widgets on our dashboard. You just click Yardstick. I'm looking at my last NPS. So one thing I didn't touch on is, NPS, it's a score between negative 100 and positive 100. And, you've probably read between the lines. You want to be closer to, the positives, and positive 100. No one gets a positive 100, but, a score like this of 52 or more is exceptional. So basically I've sent out my survey. I've asked my owners to give me a score 0 to 10. These are all my promoters. So everyone who gave me a 9 and 10, these are my passives, 7 and 8s, and 0 to 6s are here. These are little filters. I can click on it. I can open that up. I can see the response that the owner provided. And, I can go back and look at my history of previous NPS scores. Creating the survey is really simple. You click a button, you put a survey date, you nominate when that closes. So when the survey will expire. And, we send out an email. It's got all the relevant merge fields in, relevant to an NPS. And it gives your owners a little form. And this is the form that they tick. If they add some comments, those comments will come through. So, it's really, really simple. A great tool to further understand your owners. And again, like promoters, actively reach out and ask for a testimonial or a referral. Great for your BDs, your BDMs to, try and find new ownership, new managements. Detractors, again, like proactive management of detractors, really reach out, find out what their real beef is. Sometimes the comments don't give you a lot of color. So you can find out, I guess, where the business can improve. That's Yardstick.
You can also export the data as well.
Oh, sorry. Yes. So you can export the data. We export to CSV. Do I have my CSV viewer? DJ? Probably not.
I might as well just open it.
You'll probably open this as an Excel, but there's some key things. You get the information, the owner information, if you've got a really large portfolio, you can actually see by portfolio which owner. So you can start grouping and filtering those things.
Some of those comments are pretty harsh, Matt.
And that's Yardstick. So again, like we're seeing really interesting data come through from that product. And, the next step will be to kind of surface some of this information in our insights.
Yeah. And also allow you to survey other, types of contacts as well, such as tenants. Thanks, Matt. So we're going to jump now back into the remainder of this presentation, which is giving you an overview of what we've done with Insights. So we're working on enhancing it even further, and it's going to get a new name. Analytics Plus is what we're going to call it. So you've heard it here first, folks. So we're going to start with just sort of running you through what we focused on, which is improving the data collection and aggregation behind the scenes. So we've been hard at work getting all the data in cloud into our data warehouse, which allows us to create more meaningful reports for you, and also create them very quickly, address things like performance and stability as well. So we believe that these reports that I'm about to show you, which final stages of development, we're looking to release them into beta very soon, will give you more info and insights into how your business is performing. And they're mostly KPI-driven reports. But for this part, I'm going to have to switch to my laptop. So I'm just going to get my laptop up here on the screen. And hopefully you can all see that just fine. So this is an example of a new KPI dashboard that we've built and will be releasing very shortly. So this brand new report is our business KPI dashboard, and it's geared towards agency business principals, head of departments that are interested in just a headline number around key metrics. So we've got 8 KPIs over here. You can see your year-to-date annual rental income, the number of lost properties year-to-date, management income, vacant dates, commission, maintenance, and so on and so forth. So these are your key KPIs that you have now captured in one place. And below each of these KPI widgets, we also have a trend graph. So you can see how that's changed over time. So this is over each of these increments here represents a week. So this is the current week, for example. And so these are weeks in the year. And so you can see how that's changed. It's been pretty stagnant, but you can
see
go
more
back.
weeks, less weeks.
You can go, yep, you can change the view there to increase the number of weeks that you're seeing. So if you want to go back to, say, for example, 2 years worth of data, you can see what that change look like over a 2-year period. And where applicable, we've added that same trend line graph into all these other widgets. This one here is a bit unique. This one shows vacant days by portfolio. So you can see, for example, Matt's portfolio there has a very high number of vacant properties. Probably need to address that, Matt. And you can also see other things like your commission trends over time and so on. So it's a pretty good dashboard for principals and business owners, and we've got a lot of great feedback from a lot of you that that's seen this already. So we're pretty pleased with what's here, and looking forward to getting it to your hands. Now, you also have access to all the filters as usual. So if I click on this little arrow here on the left-hand side, these are all the existing insights filters. So you can still filter it down to an individual office or portfolio. And there's a lot more options there to narrow down this list even further. So that's the first type of report that we're going to release. The second one is the property manager's KPI report, which looks like this. So this is geared more towards the property manager that needs to know how their portfolio is performing. And this is something that you probably use on a day-to-day basis. So interesting stats such as your leases, renewals, inspections, maintenance, vacancies, annual rent, average arrears, all that's sort of presented on the screen there. We've also got some cool calendar widgets over here that show you over a month period, for example, where some of these activities lie. So
yeah, so they're like little heat maps, aren't they?
They are. So you can see, for instance, inspections. I've got none today, but you can see on the last month, for instance, I've had inspections on these days. Some of these are more interactive widgets. So if I click on that, it'll open up a drill down report to show you even more data. So this is an example of a property manager's report that you could probably take to your weekly team meetings. And you can also, once again, filter it down to portfolio and have more meaningful conversations with your staff around addressing performance. The third report, I'm just gonna have to blitz through some of these ones just due to time. The third report is the new gained and lost report, which has a wealth of information around how many properties your agency has gained and lost over time. So this is over, I think the reporting period for this one is over 3 months. And you can see basically the changes over that 3 months. So you can see how many properties were gained, new owners, how many properties were lost, what that translated to in annual rent, and the properties gained and what that translated to annual rent. You can also see where those changes came across in individual portfolios. You can see, for example, Amy's portfolio is a net zero. She had 1 gain, 1 loss. Helen's portfolio has grown, Nick's has grown, mine has grown. And then you can also see the loss with your losses, the reasons for the losses. So we can see with that 1 loss, the owner decided to self-manage their property. And with our gains, you can also see all those reasons there as well. Another, coming down here, you can see there's also this actuals graph here that shows you the changes over time. But one thing I wanted to point out is we know a lot of you still have very established processes that rely on tables, for example. So we still have access to this information in a table format. So I can click on table there and still get access to the same data in a table. And I still have the option to export this to CSV like I normally do. Now with these charts here, we do have drill down capability now. So I could select, for example, one of these metrics. For instance, if I want to see of these 4 properties, which ones were they that I was able to poach from a competitor? I can just select that. It updates all my other widgets, but more importantly, it also updates the underlying table that is pulling the data from. So if I go to my table view now, you can see that my filters now changed to show me the properties with that gain reason. So it's just a really cool way now to get to the information that you need and then export it if you have to. We'll go to the next report, which is the tenant report. Now, this is an amalgamation of 4 to 5 reports in one view. So everything that you need to know about your tenants are now located here. You can see all the active tenants, how many are in arrears, what the average days in arrears translates to, and the dollar amount. You can also see across all your tenants, the top 25 days in arrears, who those tenants are and what those amounts translate to, and also how it translates by portfolio. So which are some of the poorer performing portfolios. So you can have meaningful conversations with those portfolio managers around improving those arrears figures.
I think, TJ, probably just worth calling out. I think everyone's starting to get the vibe of the design, but the top row is really like, your basic stats. And then we've tried to provide some analytics tools for people who are really, focused on improving those processes. They can actually dive in. I'll just call out the days and dollar amount of all tenants in arrears. That's a really great graph to show, a high degree of variability throughout our tenancies. If I'm a really process focused head of PM, I actually want those groups to be much more tightly grouped, like, less than 7 days. Seeing a spread like that just screams room for improvement. So, part of our job is to help you understand some of this data. But yeah, whether you're a large agency or a small agency, this report should be delivering you value, either simple insights or, deeper data points that you can go and analyze yourself further.
That's right. And all it's trying to do is basically giving you the opportunity to have conversations with your staff members where you can improve performance. Just on some of these reports, especially where it's not very clear what they mean, you will see there's descriptions now on these reports that explain. This one, we haven't added one yet, but let me see if this one has one. Yeah, so you can see, for example, we've added descriptions now that explain what these widgets and reports actually mean. We will add descriptions for every one of them, so you know exactly what you're looking at. Now, we know that a lot of you still like the table and list views, so you still have access to those. So for instance, if you still want to get access to all the tenant details, you can click on that link up there that takes you to the table view of this report and still get to the agreement details and the tenant deposit reports as well. So we're combining everything into one place. Now, some of these widgets will have a new feature called forecasting, which allows us to basically analyze data over an extended period of time and then forecast future trends. And they sort of work on trend graphs. So here's an example of one of those trend graphs that shows me the properties that are in arrears over time. So in this case here, we've got about 2 years worth of data. So I can now, you'll see that there's an Analyze It button there, which only appears on certain widgets where there's sufficient data. If you click that, you can go into forecast settings, and then you can see your preferences are there. So in this case, I'm going to choose my forecast period to be the next 10 weeks. Obviously, the more data you have, the more, I guess, high confidence these forecasts are. So we're going to go 10 weeks in this case and turn it on, hit apply. And it takes a few seconds, and then you'll see that it's applied a forecast right there. So we're just going to zoom in into that section to see what it looks like. And given that overall, we've been trending downwards, it's forecasting that downward trend to continue. And then you can see, with each increment there, what the forecast values are. So what, the upper bound values are, the lower bound values are, and the confidence levels. 80% in this case. Like I said, the more data you have, the higher the confidence will be. And this is just a neat way for you to sort of see where, the future lies based on, past events.
And we'll be looking to add this to other widgets.
That's right.
I think TJ is correct. One of the key requirements is, history, because history helps inform the level of confidence on the forecast.
That's it. So if you see an Analyze It button like this on that widget, that means you can create a forecast. All right, and the last report we'll jump to is the cloud maintenance report. So once again, all the important KPI and stats that you need to look at when it comes to maintenance is in this one place. There's also a table view there, so you can get the more granular view of that data. One cool thing I want to show you is with this maintenance dashboard is not only can you see your maintenance requests and how they change and come in over time, but we've also got the source of the request now. So you can see in this case, with this demo office that I'm using, the majority of my maintenance are all recurring maintenance jobs, which is the scheduler action or source there.
So that might be mowing or something like that.
Yep, like weekly lawn mowing, or for instance. And then we've got the tenant app requests. These web requests are basically users creating maintenance requests in Console Cloud. So this is a property manager, most likely, or an admin person creating the maintenance requests, which if this number was high, would sort of highlight to me that maybe I need to get more of my tenants using the tenant app. So they're creating the maintenance requests rather than me. Anyway, this is something that you can use to, quickly see where you're spending most of your time and where you can sort of offload that to possibly your tenants. All right, well, look, that's the maintenance request. The last thing I'll quickly show you is a cool new exporting capability, especially if you want to export these reports to PDF. Now, there's a lot of BI tools that allow you to export these PDF, these reports, and print them. You'll see there's a little PDF button up here that when I click on it, it'll give me the option to view this in a PDF form and then save this. Now, doesn't look great, I admit. However, one of the features that we've added is the ability for you to edit this PDF on the fly, which is then saved and remembered every single time you generate this report. So what I can do is go into paper size, and given that this is a PDF, I'm going to go A3 in this case to give it more space. So you see we have more space now. We can also go landscape as well. Well, let's say I'm going to my weekly, team meeting, and I need a portrait format report to print out. So we can go portrait. I'm going to get rid of the title and maybe even the name, all the superfluous information there. I can just hide that. I'll go into edit mode over here and then just drag some of these columns and resize them to give me more room. So you can completely change the layout on the screen on the fly and just tailor it to exactly where you need it to be, and then hit save, and then hit download, and then you download your PDF into this format. And the next time you come in here, it remembers that. So this is something that will also be enabled very soon as part of the release of these new insights reports.
Yeah, hopefully you guys can see that we've taken a massive leap forward. We already had quite an advanced filtering and reporting solution, and this is just takes it to another level where we're prompting you. So as TJ mentioned, there's visual prompts on areas you need to look at. That's what those pink numbers are, and there's just a more obvious flow of the data. So the feedback that's been received as we've kind of been shopping this around and showing it and educating on how to deliver these reports better for you has been really, really positive. So we're looking forward to getting it in everyone's hands. If you want to be part of the beta program, ANZ Online, pinger, just drop a DM in the Q&A and Anne can reach out to enable that for you in the beta program.
Thanks, Matt. So that concludes the demo part of the webinar. So we're going to go back to what's coming up next.
Thanks, TJ. So we've got a really big quarter. We're already a month in. This is just a quick description of what's coming up. And again, just things that we're really excited about. Streamlined bills management. TJ demoed some of the prototype today to you. So that's a continued focus for us to the end of the year. Extending the custom data capability. So, in the future, we're going to add this to owner, tenant, and creditor agreements, as well as adding some specific permissions to manage those custom data fields. Inbound comms. We've had a little beta program, running for over 12 months with our email threads. We are stepping that up and basically building the ability to receive email replies back into Console Cloud in a really powerful manner. So when we're back here in November, we'll be actually able to demo to you some of the early starts on that project. Quality of life, TJ mentioned. We released that end of financial year statement for consolidated owners. Feedback is that people would like to see a similar format on our monthly statement. So that's a piece of work that'll be upcoming over the next quarter. Allow rent frequency changes. At the moment, some of these requests go through to our service team. I'm going to give you the power to do those, manage that yourself. Transfer fund between owners that have different contacts is another quality of life improvement based on the feedback from you. So really excited to kind of address some of these quality of life improvements and, hopefully streamline your day as a property manager or trust accountant. And commercial becomes a increasing focus. So we've already got a commercial module in market. We received lots of feedback on the module, both from our existing cloud customers, customers looking to transition to Console Cloud who have commercial portfolios, and our RPO customer book. So we'll continue to work on that commercial module. It's multi-quarters of work, but yeah, we'll be extending the capability of that feature over the next quarter. Guys, this will be the last time we kind of run this format. We'll be moving to a kind of a larger format in a day, we'll be running a CRM webinar, a property management webinar, and a Reapit digital webinar, which has our proposals, websites, and consumer-facing tools. So in November, you'll have the option to participate in one or many of these. And the idea is, we bring the same format to Agentbox, Agentpoint, and Proposal Point. So that will be our November webinar. We're over time. Do you want to take a couple of questions, TJ?
Yeah, I can see. I was just scrolling through the Q&A section. I can see a few. There's probably a few that we can address live. There was a question around Yardstick, Matt, and how often should they be used?
Yeah, I think the answer really depends on your score. So I think if you run your first survey and you have a negative NPS, and depending on the level of response you get, you probably want to run it monthly, because there's probably some things you can do pretty quickly to continue to improve that score. So anything less than 0, I'd be running it more frequently. If you're in the positives and you're in the early, say 0 to 15, I'd probably be running that project every couple of months. If you're above 15, 15 to 30, 15 to 40, so you're in the good stage, generally that's considered pretty good NPS. I'd probably move to quarterly. And if you're up the high end and you're positive 50, that's exceptional. You've obviously got lots of safeguards in your business. Tracking owner sentiment just as part of your day-to-day property management business, I'd probably be running it every 6 months.
That's great. Thanks, Matt. There's another question around integration with Agentbox. Is that something that's on our roadmap and plans now that we're one business?
Yeah, so we touched on it in the last webinar. Obviously, there's a future integration between the two systems. We're working with our existing customers who use both Console Cloud and Agentbox to start shaping what that roadmap is, and how we should prioritize the development. So nothing to announce now, but yeah, that is part of our plan.
And there's one question here around analytics and insights. When is that going to be released to everyone? I can probably take that one. So we're very close to basically putting the finishing touches on it, and the finishing touches. And the plan is to release that into beta for at least 4 weeks. So we're probably about another week or 2 away from that. Once we've got sufficient beta feedback and it ticks all the boxes, we'll release it to everyone. So I would say between the next 4 to 6 weeks is when we'll release it to everyone.
Yeah, depending on the feedback.
That's right.
So yeah, we're looking forward to getting in some customers' hands over the next 7 to 10 days. Guys, we're going to stay online just to answer a couple more questions. I can see the Q&A is lit up. So we'll stay on for another 10 to 15 before we close it down. And we'll be sending a recorded version of this webinar around a little bit later. Thanks for your participation. Really appreciate it. We love to come and share with you what we've been working on. Again, a lot of it's driven by your feedback. We love working with our customers, and especially over the last 12 months, as we've had that massive influx of Console Cloud users, the level of feedback that we're getting through product upvote and directly through our product team and our CSMs has been excellent. So thank you very much, guys.
Thanks, everyone.